I got a lot I want to talk about today. And no, PJ, it's not about Big Ten football or the Steagles.
Thank God.
I'm sorry. I know you'd appreciate an hour of that.
Never.
What's it looking like with the quarterback situation up there? How's Big Ben doing?
Oh, Big Ben. Does it matter?
What do you mean does it matter? You want Mason Rudolph going back out there for you
No,
guys?
of course not. I don't know. I haven't got to that yet. That's like Saturday evening after Penn State does
Who's
whatever
Penn State
they
got
do.
this week?
Exciting matchup against Rutgers at noon.
Oh, those are good weeks, man.
Yeah.
You and I
are they?
You and I have a good week where it's just you don't have to worry.
That's what we thought at noon against Illinois.
I didn't think that.
Okay.
The fighting Brett Bielemas will.
Yeah, they'll do that to you. They'll do that to you from time to time. That was just a bad matchup too. I mean, like that was right when our starting defensive tackle was out, like first ruled out with season-ending injury after that Iowa loss. Yeah, old Sean Clifford, the most confident quarterback in the country.
The most confident quarterback in the country.
Yeah, just hobbling out there and holding his ribs after every time he tried to throw the football, but somehow still was left in the game for the whole time. So I don't know. It was an interesting time. We'll see if we get past.
You got Rutgers coming up.
Big old Rutgers.
Greg Schiano back up there. It's like a time as a flat circle.
Yep. Yeah,
that's good. I'm excited. There you go. There's your Big Ten talk for the day.
Yeah, get it out of the way, please.
I wanted to bring something up because there's a certain player in college football right now that's having a pretty historic season, and I don't know that he's getting the recognition he deserves. Now, there's obviously been a ton of great players at this position, and I want to go over an important stat from the past few years. Yards per play from a quarterback. Yeah. Cool. What does that mean? It means either throwing the football or running the football. It doesn't just if you take the handoff or if you take the snap and hand it off, this doesn't factor into it. It's yards per play. So either a throw, and this factors in incompletions, either a throw or you scramble. Now, there's been obviously some really good quarterbacks over the last 5-6 years in college football. Back in 2016, you had a guy named Baker Mayfield, right? 9.5 yards per play. Back in 2017, you had a guy named Baker Mayfield. 9.8 yards per play. Mackenzie Milton, pretty lit down at UCF. 9.2 yards per play. 2018, Kyler Murray, Heisman Trophy winner. 10.37 yards per play. Tua right behind him. 10.09 yards per play. 2019, Joe Burrow, eventual Heisman Trophy winner, maybe the greatest season by a quarterback ever. 9.4 yards per play. 2020, Mac Jones, 10.3 yards per play. Elite, right? 2021, there's a fellow that has 10.10 yards per play behind only Mac Jones, right? And Kyler Murray. Can anyone here guess which quarterback that is in college football right now?
I'll let him. I only know because I saw it earlier.
I guess Stetson Bennett.
Stetson Bennett the fourth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Is he going to start this weekend? Are they really going to start him this weekend?
Yeah, the ceiling's definitely higher with JT Dan. Yeah.
Yeah. Should we? I don't know.
10.10 yards per play. It's actually gone down a little bit from the weeks prior. Obviously, the UAB game, the first half where he had 5 touchdowns, kind of skews it. But at the same time, every quarterback has one of those games every year where they put up absurd numbers against a lesser opponent. I mean, Bryce Young had a game last week against New Mexico State.
Yeah.
Where he threw for an exorbitant amount of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. So every quarterback's going to have the cupcake games. And UAB is actually not a bad team.
Made him look like it.
Yeah, he sure did. And sure, were some of the wide receivers running wide open. But, I mean, you've now had, I think, a big enough sample size of him as the starting quarterback. I know I've been harping on this all week, but I just love when facts back it up. I think you've had a big enough sample size now to say, is he one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football right now?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think so. How can you argue against it?
I think the argument against it is the Trent Dilfer argument, where it's like, dude, you just throw whatever quarterback out there with that defense and you're going to win the game. It's not what we're talking about winning the game. We're talking about execution on offense
Exactly.
with a really banged up offense for a majority of the year. They're finally getting back to relative health. Like you're not, I don't think you're going to see Eric Gilbert this year. George Pickens apparently is repping with the ones a little bit, but just
That surprised me
just
kind
in
of.
shorts. And it hasn't been cleared yet. And so, like, there's a chance you could see him this season. There's a chance you couldn't. There's really no timetable, but he is out there practicing. But still, you haven't seen Dominic Blaylock yet for this team. Just been a banged up team all year. You've lost Arian Smith. Dude's averaging over 200 yards a game.
Yeah.
And this is, again, I think a lot of people look at this and say, that's not a ton of yardage. I think he's at 1,858 total yards for the season. He hasn't had to play in the second half a lot.
He hasn't had to do a lot of things that some of those other quarterbacks have had to, right? And he's also not really in the system that those other guys have been in, I don't think. So, like,
Right.
those yards per play to me is even more impressive with the kind of system that Georgia is running and with the kind of talent they have at running back. And you know, some of the games like Arkansas, that he wasn't really asked to do anything. He didn't really need to. And they dominated that game. He's still having those yards per play and everything like that up and being insanely impressive. I think my argument against quarterbacks like that in the past, like again with Mac Jones, right? Last year, we would talk around the office and I'd be like, man, he's throwing a wide open guys. Because his wide receivers are just that impressive. And he of course, historically and made some pretty good throws. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback.
Matt Jones dropped
but
some dimes, man.
He did.
Come
but
on.
like but I would say that there's a lot of people that talk about the ceiling of JT Daniels as opposed to Stetson Bennett and all that stuff, and talk about, you know, have there been a few series this year, maybe a quarter or so this year. You look at the opening quarter against Florida, which both teams got a bye week to prepare for each other. I felt like that was probably going to be a defensive struggle for the
Stetson
first little bit.
Did not have a good game against Florida.
It was not great. So there have been times like that, sure. But there have been also other times where he is dropping absolute dimes that people need to give him credit for. Like, I
think about James Cook in the Tennessee game. I
Yeah.
think about Arian Smith. Which game was that? Was that Missouri? Yeah, it was against Missouri in the first quarter when they hadn't scored yet in the first quarter, and then he threw that one on fourth down over the top. I mean, dude, he's thrown some absolute ropes, and he's got the highest highest yards per attempt of passes over 20 plus yards in the country.
Yeah. It's wild.
Well, it's just because college football's changed.
Yeah.
You see quarterbacks throwing for 400 yards in a game, but a lot of the balls are 5-10 yards down the field to crossing routes, and the wide receiver, you get that yak
Ohio
going
State.
on, right? Well, I mean, CJ Stroud, he could throw some bombs, but you want to talk about a guy throwing to wide open receivers where there's nobody within 20 yards of them. It's that same Ohio State play where they run a play action, everybody's looking at the right, and then the quarterback just loads back up and throws to the left towards the sideline.
Yeah.
And there's a wide receiver that had come all the way across the field because there's no such thing as pressure apparently against Ohio State, and it's just a walk-in touchdown.
Well, he just has two. You talk about, that's kind of the argument I had against Mac Jones. I have the same. You have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. They're a wide receiver. And the one time this year, the two games this year where I believe Wilson was out, one of those was against Penn State, and he struggled mightily in that game because one guy was covered up and you didn't have the other guy to be wide open, and he struggled mightily in that game because those wide receivers weren't doing their thing.
What's funny is that you mentioned Chris Olave and Wilson. They're not even his best receiver this year.
Nah,
Jackson Smith Enigma has been the best
slot,
receiver.
Yeah.
Like they have three like elite wide receivers, three elite running backs, and CJ Stroud. I think if we want to have this conversation, we can. Outside of Alabama, that's the team that should scare you if you're a Georgia fan. That's the team you don't want to match up with, I think, in the playoffs.
I don't know.
Because I think they have the firepower.
I think it's there. Like I have heard a lot of people say this, and even when like they were especially going through their run where they were playing like Rutgers and putting up 60 points per game, and with the talent they have, I agree with TreVeyon Henderson is an elite, amazing back, really solid offensive line. Those wide receivers are great. I do think his name's slipping my mind right now. Sorry. I think the slot receiver that you mentioned is
Jackson Smith Enigma. Yeah,
he's kind of benefiting off of the coverage that Wilson but
are you calling him a compiler?
You're going to it. Well,
I think Ohio State, that offense, I think it's elite. I just feel like Stroud and
I
that-
think Stroud
not
is the
Olave
weakest link
and
on
Wilson.
that
Yeah.
offense.
I
So
think
if he
Stroud
has a
is
bad
a
game,
year away from being
Yeah.
like him,
Is
and
he?
I could see him and Bryce Young matching up next year in the national championship. I could see that.
absolutely.
I could possibly
Yeah.
see that, but this year,
I can see it this year.
I
Who's
don't.
going to beat them?
Me personally, I don't think
Who's
Ohio
keeping,
State.
who's keeping Ohio State out of the college football playoff?
Oh, I thought I was talking about national championship.
Okay, who's going to beat them?
Who's going to beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
Georgia.
So you're saying Georgia would play? You're saying Ohio State would be a 4 seed and Georgia would be a 1 seed?
I would take Georgia in that
I-
matchup, and
I don't know if Ohio State. They have a
and if
lot
it
of
stays
schedule
how it
play.
is, let's say Alabama loses to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Somehow they have them fall all the way down to 5 after that loss to
Georgia?
Georgia, right? No,
Oh,
Alabama.
Okay.
Then you have Oregon and Ohio State matching up again. Guess what? Oregon's already beat them.
Yeah,
you go
Ohio
back. No,
State's
no.
gonna-
You
yeah.
go back and watch
Ohio
that
State's
game. They
gonna get them this
controlled that
No,
game.
I'm not
defensively.
I'm
They
not
did.
disagreeing with you.
Oregon
I'm not
controlled that,
disagreeing
and
that they
missed a
control
lot
that
of
game.
guys too.
I'm not disagreeing that they control that game. And Joe Moorhead called an excellent football game, right?
For sure.
Former, like back when Penn State had a cool offense, and
No, that has nothing to.
yeah, I'm just saying. But like now he's at Oregon, former Mississippi State head coach. He called a great game, but it was also what Stroud's second start in his
for sure.
college football
Well,
career.
Oregon
He
was
has a-
missing 5 defensive players. though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thibodeau would be back, and I think that'll make a difference. But I
would
think
like to see
you
that.
play that game right now. I got Ohio State by 10.
That's true.
That's
I
fine.
have
I think a
Ohio
lot of
State.
people do, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we see it again.
All right, so on the season, Bryce Young, who would y'all agree he's the Heisman Trophy favorite?
Absolutely.
By
Right,
like default, yeah.
yeah. I mean, right now he has 3,025 yards, 33 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Elite, really good, right? CJ Stroud, 3,036 yards, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Cream of the crop. Cream of the crop. I just don't know. It's the same to be said with Bryce Young.
What's
I don't-
amazing is both of those guys, like we're in this modern era of college football where you need dual threat quarterbacks. Stroud has 4 rushing yards. Bryce Young
Yeah, it's
has
like
25.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are
Now,
we in that
we-
era, or has that always been the area? If you can protect your quarterback and you have awesome wide receivers,
We know
Yeah.
Bryce
They're
Young
the
can
best
move,
offense.
but
Most
most
likely.
of the time, those guys, like you said, they're in the pocket. We know those guys
Yeah,
can move.
they're in the
They're
pocket,
doing
but
it
they're
with their arm.
slick, and they
Yeah.
they move to throw.
Mhm.
Right? They're not. And I don't yell at me. I'm talking to people in the cars too. I'll say that's one of the biggest reasons why we saw Stetson Bennett in there as long as he has been. And now obviously it's his team, but one of the biggest reasons is Georgia's, especially the interior offensive line, has kind of struggled against some pass rush. And Stetson Bennett has been able to elude some things where JT Daniels would look like he had concrete blocks tied to his feet and
It's
would
true.
have absolutely eaten a sack. I would be really curious to go back and look at Georgia's drive charts this year and just see how many times they've been in 2nd and 10 plus.
We had Stetson Bennett last game. I think that 13-yard scamper he had to get
Yeah.
the first down. That was crucial in that game.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that
I
was
don't
on,
know if
that was
JT
on
could
3rd
do
down.
that.
And then
It's
there
the
was like
unspoken part about his game that he's really good with. Yeah.
and he's not like, there's a couple where it's just like, if you're the linebacker that he shook, you're like, how in the hell did that happen? Because it looks like he jukes you in slow motion, but it's just enough to avoid the catastrophic.
Yeah.
And every now and then it's enough to, if it opens up for him, pick up a chunk play. And I say chunk for him is like 10 to 15 yards, right?
Absolutely, for
he's
sure.
He's not going to stretch out and just outrun a defense.
He is deceptively athletic, though. Like I mean, he's pretty quick. He's pretty
elusive.
quick for his
he's
body.
elusive.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
and I'll say he's also intelligent with how he runs. Like he knows where the first down marker is. He knows when to get
He's
out of
played
bounds
so
when
much
he needs
football.
to. Yeah, yeah.
And there's a distinct possibility, and a good article by Chip Towers and the AJC about this. There's a distinct possibility he's going to walk as a senior with like 30 other players for Georgia, but him and like 17 other dudes can come back next year.
And why not?
I mean, if you got that draft grade, you're probably going. Like a Jordan Davis could come back, and some other guys could. Devontae
Right,
Wyatt
for them,
could
yeah.
come back, but they're not going to because they're going to get drafted. But there's a distinct possibility you see 6th-year Stetson Bennett next year, which, I mean, Will Cheney said this on Twitter, very relatable
Yeah.
because, I was on that 6-year college track.
Right.
Appreciate
right.
that, Stetson, even though I think he's already graduating. So
Yeah.
he's walking. But, most relatable college quarterback ever, that old 6-year college plan. So, I mean,
There you
there's a
go.
distinct chance, Cam, that, and I know we don't have to talk about this until after the season because I know there's so many things we can focus on, but just keep this in the back of your mind. there's a chance that Georgia's quarterback room going into the offseason looks like 6-year Stetson Bennett, which if you accomplish everything you want to accomplish this season, put that in his record book. JT Daniels, Carson Beck, former 4-star from Jacksonville, Brock Vandegrift, 5-star from Prince Avenue Christian, and Gunnar Stockton, 4-star, 5-star in some people's books, coming out of Rayburn County. So you have a freshman in Gunnar Stockton. You'd have, I guess, a redshirt freshman in Brock Vandegrift. Carson Beck, which I guess he'd be a junior or sophomore. The COVID year throws me off.
Sophomore.
Yeah.
JT
Very
Daniels,
much
who I
so.
think he's going to be a junior technically next year.
Yeah.
And 6-year senior Stetson Bennett.
Somebody's trying.
Somebody?
I mean, that's a very
Somebody?
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge
I give
Yeah.
quarterback room for college football. Yeah.
That's if Stetson decides he wants to come back, which he's not going to get an NFL grade. Why wouldn't he come back?
What if he gets like maybe 5th, 6th round, 7th round grade?
Stetson is not going to be drafted.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can
Even if they
absolutely
like
tell you
start picking up the hype right now, I don't think it's going to be
Yeah.
high enough. Like, I don't think the hype train hasn't really started yet in that realm. And you for the NFL draft and the
it's not
NFL, you
going
really
to.
need that too.
It's not going to.
Yeah.
It's the same reason there's half the Georgia fan base out there is still clamoring for JT Daniels. He's not going to be drafted. He's
Not the prototype.
he's smaller than Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have Kurt Warner's arm.
Right.
And I'm not taking anything away from
No,
Stetson
not
Bennett,
at all.
but he's not going to be drafted. Like there's no chance Stetson's like, hey, I know I got another year here at Georgia, but I'm gonna go see what I can do in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like that's not why he wouldn't come back.
Right.
And maybe he's just sick of being in college, which I could get that. Even though I don't know if you ever get sick of being the starting quarterback of Georgia,
Right.
and the perks that come with that. But different college experience for me versus the starting quarterback of Georgia. So
Go. I don't know,
I
man.
guess
Go,
I'm not gonna
go
I
talk
guess I'm not
to,
gonna try to compare and contrast those.
he just needs to go talk to like who was that? Case Keenum. I know that was at Houston, but he was there for like 19 years, wasn't
It's
he?
true.
So,
think
I
he's still
mean,
there.
Yeah. And he's been able to work it out in the NFL, but I'm sure he'd take another year
But
in
again,
college
Case-
in a heartbeat.
Case Keenum. Let's look it up.
Case Keenum's nice.
He was,
He's
man.
nice.
He was wild at Houston. He was one of those.
Nice.
He was like 5,000 yards
Case
a year.
Keenum's listed at 6'2",
Maybe not
215
5.
pounds.
Yeah, Case Keenum was nice at Houston.
And
too.
I know, listen, Stetson Bennett, I know he is listed at 5'11". I am the barometer for 6 feet tall because I'm literally exactly 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
My guy. I've seen him next to BJ Bennett.
Yeah.
BJ and E were close to 6 feet
BJ
tall.
Told me.
BJ and E were close to 6 feet tall. Like Stetson. 5'11"? 5'11"?
Whoever wrote that down for you, man.
No,
It was-
you always gotta look. And when you look in the depth chart or the official program, just take an inch and 15 pounds off of everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the real thing.
True.
And sometimes it goes the other way, like especially when you have big old defensive tackles. Sometimes it goes the other way where they're actually
Right.
pushing like 360 and they have them down at 340 just to try to slim them up a little bit. So sometimes it goes the other way. We're way over here. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back more, talk some more college football next right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Cam, I got something here for you from the Big 12. We're navigating from the Big 10 to the SEC over to the Big 12, but this one a little bit different story. The Big 12 on Wednesday issued a public reprimand of the Texas Tech football radio announcers. Did you guys see this?
Oh, my. No.
For their call of Saturday's win over Iowa State. They won it 41-38. Play-by-play host Brian Jensen and analyst John Harris were, we'll just say, critical of the officiating in the conference during this game. There were multiple calls in the game, and a majority of them were going against Texas Tech. And so I have some of the quotes here from the guys. And this is Harris. He says, I'll say it right now. Again, this is the home radio broadcast for Texas Tech, which I love everything they say in this. He says, I'll say it right now. The Big 12 does not want Iowa State to lose this game. Okay. Which is just, it's Homer radio. Like you're listening to the home broadcast. They use words like we and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
He said, I'll say it right now. The Big 12 does not want Iowa State to lose this game. Jensen follows that up with, Bob Bowlesby, you need to answer to this. This is ridiculous. The inconsistency of this referee crew in favor of Iowa State. Unbelievable. And that was prior to the review of an interception, which they overturned the interception and gave the ball back to Iowa State. I never support this, but the fans from Texas Tech were throwing trash on the field.
No, I don't support that.
But still, I'm loving what I'm getting from my home radio team here. They say the Big 12 should be embarrassed. The Big 12 should be embarrassed with this group. We've only pointed out two guys. I'm going to read them all to you.
Oh, my.
Which, to be fair, it is a public thing. Like you can find out who the names of the officials and all the officiating crews. Right? It's not like a state secret who the officials are at these games. So they go on and they read off all the names. You can hear the audio online. To me, it sounds like a home radio broadcast.
Yeah.
But because Texas Tech is a member of the Big 12, and because people are soft, the Big 12 and Bob Bowlesby, because he got all up in his feels that a home radio station was calling him and the conference out.
Of course he did.
Gave them a public reprimand. And so now they will be suspended for their next game, their home game against Oklahoma State, which, you know what? If I'm suspended from that game in a work capacity, you better believe my behind is going to be there in the stands.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a hero.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
As a conquering hero walking in there.
They should have him as the honorary captains.
Best part about that, though, is ball don't lie, because this is the same game in which the kicker hit a 62-yard walk-off field goal to win the game.
Okay. That's
Texas Tech's won 41-38. The official Texas Tech football account at Texas Tech FB, this final score can't be overturned. I mean,
that's good.
All right.
That's good.
We talked about the fans throwing trash on the field. We have seen this before this year. Ole Miss, Tennessee, where they threw trash on the field after they said Matt Corral's forward progress had carried him out of the end zone versus it being a safety or a touchdown. Did the ball come loose on the play? Either way, they basically said his forward momentum had carried him out. We saw it in the infield fly rule many years back when the Cardinals were at Turner Field in that single elimination playoff game. I think David Ross hit a home run in that game. That's just a random thought. And so it's the frustration with the officials. My question to you is this: what, if any, because we saw earlier the year with the Bears where the official kind of hip checked the linebacker then through the personal foul, and then the league came out and said, we reviewed that, and it was absolutely the right call to make. At what point do leagues and conferences just need to have some sort of punishment system for bad officiating?
Oh, man, I thought you was gonna ask us of what moment have we gotten mad, because I could give you a great
there's
one.
Plenty, yeah.
Well, hit me.
Remember a few years ago,
the number one is Tyler Simmons was offsides, but
Falcons, Seahawks, they're in Seattle. They throw the ball to Julio Jones, and literally Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman are grabbing Julio.
No, I said this before.
Clear-cut pass interference.
Julio Jones, the NFL is like LeBron in the NBA, where he's so physical and so big that the things that people do/did to him would be called on everyone else. Like, you can call a foul every time LeBron goes to the hole
Mhm.
because he's so fast and he's so strong that people reach out, slap him on the arms, and he just flows through it like water.
Fun
Yeah.
fact, that was the only game they ever lost to Legion of Boom. Played them 5 times. They only
Yeah.
lost 1 time.
That's a good fact.
I was upset.
But yeah, Julio very much like little LeBron, where it's just like he's so big and physical that DBs would just be like draped all over him, grabbing his jersey, hitting his arm, no flag. But I mean, like, how far does it need to go? Because it's just with the era of social media and the way internet has made content so easy for us to get to, it's not just like you'll go past the bad call and it's gone forever. Like, no, I mean, that as soon as you make that terrible call, it is on social media and it's there forever.
Yeah.
Like what can conferences do? Because I think there has to be some sort of punishment system in place. I mean, we've seen in the GHSA. The GHSA literally had to, and if you're listening to this and you're an official, I'm not calling you out, especially officials for like high school and middle school sports.
Yeah.
But anyone doing a job is not above repercussions for not performing their duties correctly.
Exactly.
Right. And so we saw the GHSA this year in the football playoffs. They had to play 6A and they had to play
single A,
private and public on Saturday versus Friday because not enough officials qualified to work in the playoffs. Like, they had to pass a test with over a certain percentage and not enough of them did. So they had to move 2 classifications to Saturday for a round so they'd have enough officials to go around, with a lot of them pulling double duty. I mean, is it officials having to answer questions after games? I think that would be outstanding. But I mean, I think there has to be some sort of scorecard. Like I showed you the umpire scorecard at that Twitter account. I think there has to be some sort of percentage scorecard grade that if you don't maintain that, you don't work.
Yeah,
you get moved to a different spot. You get demoted.
Yeah. No, I think there's a number of different things. I mean, it's a number of different things that we see in sports. Like you said, you get demoted in some way. You get, and when it starts to affect have major effects on games, that's kind of where I draw the line and where the problem is. And I get the whole human error thing.
Mississippi State is a 3-loss team right now.
Yeah.
They should be a 2-loss team.
4, yeah.
They should be a 2-loss team because literally that Memphis game was stolen from them by abysmal officiating.
Right.
Like where a guy's knee was clearly down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you can go back and see a number of those throughout the year. I mean, I can only imagine how angry I would be and how much I would be throwing things around still if Auburn ended up winning that game against Penn State with all the embarrassing things that the crew called in that one. So I think there have been a number of those, but yeah, I think it's demoting them in some way. It's if you get a certain number of these calls wrong, especially if they affect the end result of games, like they're directly affected to the end result of a game, you either don't work the next week, like you get suspended for a certain amount of time, or of course you just lose your job at the end of the day.
I like what you said. I like what he said when he said officials should be like exactly what players do, like get interviewed after games, ask questions, because I mean, if players have to do it each and every game, why can't officials do it? Have the same type of pressure and things.
I don't love the autonomy that officials have, where it's just like, I made these calls, game's over, we're out of here.
I think that's like the baseline, though. Like, I think that should happen no matter what, not just if they make a bad call. Like, I think that should happen after every game. Like, make them available.
Yeah.
Because just in case. Literally, and I'll say this, the crew that worked that Memphis-Mississippi State game, at least like maybe the white hat, shouldn't have worked again. Because that was so blatantly terrible.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, that game probably cost Mississippi State hundreds of thousands of dollars, because when you talk about the payouts from certain bowl games that they're going to get,
right?
Or I mean, fighting for their chance. I mean, really, for them, it comes down to bowl games and bowl placement, and like that could potentially cost them in the 6 figures when it comes to what bowl game they get to go to and how much money that's going to pay them out. Because you couldn't see that a dude's knee was down,
right?
Like clear as day. And I'll also say this to maybe try to lighten the mood a little bit. I do think, and I've said they should have done this for a long time. I think officials this year are just like listening to the game, like the game call, like the broadcast call, and whatever the guys in the announcer booths are like, oh yeah, look, the ball's clearly out right there. Like, yeah, ball is out.
Yeah.
Or if they're just like waiting, like, okay, ESPN's doing their 17 different angles. 2 feet, they were down. Oh yeah, he was inbounds and called it. Like I haven't really seen them disagree or get
Yeah,
the review
it's true.
wrong too much this year. I think that's what you should do is if like the three guys in the booth are watching the game, like, oh yeah, it's clearly this. You're like, all right, let's not go against that. It's the public, and yeah, that's the at large. Like, let's just call that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm the only weird person who's noticed that.
No, I don't know. That
No,
that
next
is
time,
that
next
is
time you're
kind of
watching
true.
a college
Yeah.
football game and they go to review, listen to what the play-by-plays guys say, and then watch what they call. And
Yeah.
it's almost like instantly after
Right.
they say it, they come out of their little head tent, whatever you call that thing, because it's like the camera and they have like a head tent around them.
Yeah.
And then they come out of that and they're like, yeah, whatever those guys just said, whatever Herb Street just said, that's what I call this.
Well, because they love they love also going to the inconclusive has to be like, without a shadow of a doubt. They love going into that every single time there's a review.
Yep.
And I feel like especially for those where the broadcaster is like, yeah, see, you see it from this angle, but not this one. I just don't think there's enough there. He's like, all right, got it. Good to go.
Cool.
Like
Yep.
there's my out.
So that would be stands, because you have video evidence confirms, which means we think we got it right, but then we saw it, we know we got it right.
Yeah.
You have overturned, which we see we got it wrong, and then you have stands, which just means we don't know.
we're
We're just
not
going
sure.
with what we called.
You know what game I would have loved to hear like the officials like explain their reasoning. Remember the Saints and the Rams?
Oh my
That
goodness.
bad call.
Yeah.
I would have loved to hear like
Yeah,
what the
literally,
officials
but
had
that literally
to say.
changed
Like,
the sport because
Yeah.
now pass interference is a challengeable play.
I would have
Mhm.
loved to hear that. Like, what was going through your mind when you were officiating? Like,
I still
He's like,
kind of
bro,
like.
if I'm
They
being
would've got
honest,
ripped.
like I kind of got like distracted for a second.
they would have got ripped. Like,
I'll
if they
say-
had to interview, I don't know how they would have got out of New
Well, I
Orleans.
mean, like, but there are guys, and I wish I could remember his name. But was it Andres Galarraga who? Trying to remember the name of the Detroit Tigers pitcher who was 8 2/3 innings through a perfect game.
I think it was. Yeah.
and it was a bang bang play at first base,
Mm-hmm.
and they called the guy safe, and he was out by a step.
Mhm.
And this was prior to replay in MLB, and so dude had to eat the fact that he was 8 2/3 innings through a perfect game, and the first base umpire missed it. And dude, like, to his credit,
Yeah.
went out in like tears. I think it was the next day. Like, went out in tears in front of the press and said, "I stole a perfect game from that kid."
Well, I think if you go back
And
and,
so it's like,
you,
if you
and you
just
look at it,
if you just admit it,
Yeah.
like, I screwed up.
like you see
Everybody's ready to move on.
Galarraga look at him too, and I'm pretty sure like a good 25, 30 seconds after it, you kind of see him like, that was the wrong call. Like the ump, the first base
Yeah.
ump's like, yeah, that was wrong. Like that was wrong, but he couldn't go back and change it.
Armando Galarraga.
Yeah, there you go.
Close plays like that, sometimes I don't mind, but things that are just super obvious, it's like, okay, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you got to make that call if it's super obvious. Like the Rams and Saints,
Yeah,
that
Jim
I
Joyce.
could have made that.
Jim Joyce.
Yep, got the mustache.
Oh, dude, we see that man cry. When you saw
That's
that
rough.
man
That's
cry,
rough.
it looked like
You know
John
it's
Wayne.
bad.
It looked like John Wayne crying.
Yeah,
And you were just like, yeah, I mean, I forgive you.
it's
Like,
true.
no, we all forgive you. It's okay.
Just stop. Just please stop crying. You're gonna make us all cry.
Also, I don't understand like why at that point, like, and this is gonna make some purists mad. I don't understand why at that point you can't retroactively go back and say the game was over at that point. Out, perfect game.
Yeah,
Because like, we
True.
all know he threw a perfect game,
he did.
but it will never be included in the record books.
Nope. And,
Or even
yeah.
if you don't want to change it, the overarching, like, the result of the game, just go back in his records and say he had a perfect game.
yeah,
I don't understand that.
in some way, form, or fashion, credit him with it, not just the perfect game that wasn't a perfect game. Like, because that's going to be forgotten about at some point.
Yeah.
Like people are going to forget about that. But having it in the record books, having it in the stat books, that's not going to be.
It's true. We got to take a break. We're going to come back. Falcons, Patriots tonight. Not many Falcons left over from
It's gonna be a
2016.
long night. It's gonna be a
Not many
long
Falcons
night.
left over from 2016, but there are a couple that I think would like a morsel of revenge. We'll dive into it next right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. 2 different locations in Savannah to take care of all of your uniform needs. We got some Thursday night football. You have the New England Patriots coming in at 6-4. Guys, you can talk about stats. Undefeated on the road this year. Your Atlanta Falcons and mine. Winless in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this year.
Not an important note, too. In Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, they got, I guess, technically a home win over were they in Wembley Stadium when they won the one against the Jets?
Right.
I guess. Coming in, Falcons averaging 19.8 points per game. The Patriots averaging 27.5. Patriots giving up just 17.7 points per game, while the Falcons are being outscored by almost 10, giving up 29.2 yards per play. Obviously, those stats very skewed by last week's results. I think the worst loss in Falcons history, 43-3 against the Dallas Cowboys. You just got, look, Arthur Smith said it. It only counts as 1 loss. It felt like 5. Only counts as 1. Got to flush it. Cam, is there any way the Atlanta Falcons win tonight?
No.
No. You say 0% chance.
Like
that quick.
I love what Arthur Smith's been doing. You know, I like Arthur Smith. I think he's doing.
Well, you said love and you downgraded to like within one sentence.
Well, he's doing a hell of a
It's
job.
not trending in the right direction.
I think he's doing a hell of a
There's the
job.
dad.
They
There's
have
the dad praise. Hell of a job.
he is. I mean, they had 4 wins last year. You're 9 games in. You got
You
4
really
wins
hustled
now.
today, kid.
But
Yeah.
I will say,
Way to
I
go,
don't.
Chief.
I don't think they have a chance. I think that Patriots defense is like really, really good this year. I just don't. I don't know who's going to get open. I don't even know our receivers anymore at this point, other than Pitts, and I haven't really heard much from Gage this year and Matt Jones, and they're running the ball like the Patriots are the best rushing attack in the league, and we've never been able to stop the run. So I just think it might get ugly tonight. Maybe a 2-touchdown game from the 2-touchdown win from the Patriots.
Man.
DJ, Patriots 6.5-point favorites on the road. Do you think they cover that?
I actually think it's going to be closer than that. I don't know. I think kind of a correction game from the Falcons, maybe. And maybe this is me. Well, what with what you were talking about yesterday, kind of believing a little bit too much with their wins and whatnot. But I don't know. I think this might be one of those wild Thursday night games where you're like, okay, well, if you look at the matchups, you look at the stats, all that stuff, the Patriots should probably win going away. But then you look up in the third quarter and it's a 1-possession game and you're like, wait a minute, can the Falcons pull this off? So I don't know. For some reason, I kind of believe in that. Maybe AJ Terrell could show up and have a big night against Mac Jones to slow that attack, that passing attack down a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I think the matchup with, I know how good Mac Jones is and that running attack with the Patriots can be. The matchup to watch is obviously the Falcons offense trying to get back on track against a pretty tough defense there with the Patriots. But hey, I don't know. Maybe like they struggled last week, had only those 3 points, saving it all for Thursday night.
Here's my one concern with this is Cordero Patterson is questionable and seems doubtful that he's going to play. It's, quote, a game time decision, but he's been your best player this year.
Yep.
And without him, I think it's going to be tight. And then I think the offense, the Patriots play, kind of what Cam was saying with the way they're able to run the football and then hit play action off of that, it not very conducive to this pretty okay Falcons defense. Again, as much as we want to credit them for playing some tough games, they're also giving up almost 30 points a game. It's not a good defense, and it's not a good offense. Without all that being said, though, short week, at home, playing a rookie quarterback who's been really good, but playing a rookie quarterback, you have Matt Ryan. I think he's preparing extra hard for this game too. Not that he doesn't prepare for every game, but like it's the Patriots. Tom Brady obviously isn't taking snaps for them anymore, but it's the Patriots. And I think Matt Ryan has a monkey he wants to get off his back, which is beating the Patriots.
He's never done it.
No.
Nor the Steelers. I don't think he's ever beaten the Steelers.
So
either.
it's just
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
Let's keep it that way.
I think Matt Ryan locked in. I think the Falcons win tonight.
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
I think the Falcons win tonight. I think Matt Ryan plays his butt off. I think they come out slinging the rock around. They're not even going to try to pretend to run it, especially if Cordero Patterson's not in there.
No.
And I think the Falcons win tonight. You have two kind of streaks that you wouldn't think would carry on for much longer, which is undefeated on the road versus winless in your own stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Rookie quarterback on a short week. AJ Terrell's like, if there's one bright spot on the defense, it's been AJ Terrell.
Yeah.
You mentioned that defense being pretty okay and the points per game being really high. You got to mention too that like through a couple of those games, of course, you had the terrible game against Dallas. That's going to spike that points per game up quite a bit. And then you also have the Tampa Bay game, which of course didn't help the defense either. But was it really the defense? I mean, Matty Ice
gave up
with
21
2 or
points.
3. Yeah, I mean,
you gave up 28 points to Miami.
that's bad. Yeah, of course, that's bad.
But against
That's not
Tampa,
good.
Matt gave Tampa 21 points.
Exactly.
I will
That's
admit
so
that.
I mean, that drives it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I don't
maybe
know
this
if I'd say
defense is a
Matt
little bit
gave
better
it
than
to him.
people
I'd say
think.
some tip balls off a receiver's hands gave it to him.
Yeah.
Little
But
bit
it
better.
wasn't
Gave
a
up
defense.
32
Either
to
way,
the-
the
He gave
offense
up
did.
32 to the Eagles.
Oh, Lord.
That's not good. That was also first game of the season, though, right?
That
I mean,
offense
How many
was really
qualifiers are
bad.
we going to give this defense?
No,
But
that's
the
first
offense
game,
was
that's
really
it.
bad, though.
Listen, if you
It
take
was.
away,
Yeah,
if
they
you
were
take away
bad.
this game, and
Hey,
this game,
hey,
yeah,
you-
not a bad
You
defense.
tried to do it to Ohio State
think-
earlier. I can do it to
I didn't
Atlanta.
know such thing.
You,
I
you
think
did
it's
it
the
to
number
CJ Stroud.
20.
You
I
said,
didn't
"Hey,
say take
man,
that game away.
defense.
I say they're a different team now.
We're below average. We're not terrible. We're
no,
below
Cam,
average.
the Falcons defense sucks. It's one of the worst defenses.
No,
in
he
the
said
league.
they're going to win. I'm trying to spread some positivity now.
I still think they're going to win. They're still NFL players, but the Falcons
Yeah,
defense is
It's
terrible.
terrible. The roster is terrible.
let's go back
Not
to pretty
the
okay.
defense.
The
Let's go
entire-
back to pretty okay."
No, it's not pretty okay. It's the whole roster is bad.
Yeah, the roster is horrible.
yeah. No, the roster for sure. The defense is okay.
No, it's not okay.
it's all right.
It's not. In what way is it all right?
AJ Terrell's all right.
That's not the defense.
Right now it is.
He definitely is, though.
Right?
And he's a corner.
Right now he is.
Just throw to the other side, AJ. We're
What the
good.
hell are you guys talking about?
Go to the other side. Grady Jarrett. I haven't
Talking
heard.
about needing to go.
I
to
mean, but
break.
he's getting doubled. But man,
we're
man,
getting
oh,
over here.
You
Yeah.
okay?
no.
I just
All right, let's go to break. We'll come back. I have to kind of absorb what you guys are talking about. We'll be right back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Give you a quick update as to what we were discussing in there. Is it offensive if we have somebody on and we have 30 seconds here and we're interviewing them and you call them by their first name? I.e., so you have old Steve Johnson on, who's the head coach at Western Montana State. And you say, Steve, and you guys, it's like, is that offensive?
Depending on how tight you are.
No, I don't think it's offensive at all. I'm having a conversation with another grown person. I will call them by their first name.
I don't know.
I
normally say coach. But
I think
I
the only thing. Well, I'm saying it's not offensive if you do it the other way.
No,
right? It's okay to do either or, but it's not offensive if you do it the one way. I think that's the conversation. Maybe we'll carry it over into 3 and Out. 3 and Out coming up next. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, Kevin Thomas. If you missed any portion of our show, check us out on Spotify, ESPNCoastal.com, or SoundCloud.